I kind of split my presentation into two different parts of this. One is the different types of graphics that we include in our grants. We include a lot of maps, a lot of organizational charts, timelines, and then concepts or process graphics, and those are the most complex. The maps, I can do a map of Kansas in my dreams with my eyes closed. We have those in all different kinds of varieties, and I'll get into that in a little bit. The org charts can be really simple or really complex, but it shows all of those connections that everyone else has been talking about, those community connections, the different support that you have. And then the timelines, I don't think we work on things quite the same timelines that you all do, but a timeline is a timeline. For the best practices, it's the NOFO, following the guidelines. That's number one. You'll see a lot of my graphics are black and white. A lot of the grants that we are requested to submit it's required that it has to be in black and white. So grayscale, that's challenging to make stuff look really interesting in grayscale, as you'll see. But following the guideline is extremely important. Sometimes there'll be text or font, text size, font size, or font choice that you're required to do. So just really following the guidelines is just as important because they'll throw something out because it doesn't fit within those guidelines. Ensuring overall readability, that can be size, that can be color contrast, and I know this sounds kind of simple stuff, but just understanding that, again, if they can't read it, if they can't skim it quickly, if they can't see the point of it really immediately, then it just won't be included. Understanding that your graphics really need to add meaning or clarity. Again, when you're really limited on what you can include in a grant page count, if it doesn't add anything, don't include it. Save that space for something else. Collaborating with your writers is extremely helpful. A lot of the graphics I've created over my 9 years, some of them never went anywhere because we ended up deciding that it really didn't fit, but the collaboration helped write a better, we were able to get it in text instead of having it be a visual, or vice versa. And so really understanding that it's a collaboration, it's not just a handoff, it's understanding it throughout the process. It makes for making changes at the last minute quicker, which is also a big piece of this when you're really limited on time. You don't want to have to wait to explain something. You want to be able to move quickly. And then planning for space, understanding, okay, you have half a page for an image. That allows me to understand how detailed my image can be, or not. Or I get a full page, that's exciting. But really understanding how much space I'm gonna have within the allotted space is important. Okay, gonna go through a few of our graphics, sort of recent things that we've done. This one is a network planning grant. And as, all y'all know about Kansas, understanding that what's happening on the western side of the state versus the eastern side of the state is completely different. And so we really needed to be able to explain how things were happening across the state. And then even zooming in on a couple key, our key community near Garden City, and how those, not just the distance and the locations, but then also the community organizations that were going to be happening in it. This is one of our organizational charts. This is one that we've done recently for the preschool development grant, the renewal grant. So this one we've actually done a couple of different times. But again, understanding that it's working within that grayscale, being able to have it be grayscale, but still have that high contrast to be able to read it. But it doesn't have to be flashy at least for the grants that we're doing. And as you were talking about in the last section about how sometimes these communities are pulling resources together. It's not always about being flashy, it's about being clear and understandable, and really being able to show the linkages between the different pieces. This is another organizational chart that I did, and this one really hurt my soul because I had to use Times New Roman and the exact same size font for every single piece. And so but showing how it's still really helpful to have the organization have even like how we're working within these systems. And it is still possible, even with Times New Roman, even in grayscale, to make something make sense. So our timelines, this one is a 3-year timeline we were able to do. This is one of the better ones where we were actually able to show some color coding based on the year and how things were going to be shifting over time. But again, really understanding that like this was only able to be a page in the overall grant application. And so trying to make sure what we were adding, the information we were adding to this really added clarity to what was going to be happening throughout the process, and then hitting on those key points that were in the NOFO and the overall organization, so that we are making sure that they're able to see exactly what's happening throughout the process. Then our concept graphics. These are the most fun. These are the ones where we really get to kind of start showing some different aspects of the grant and the idea of the grant or the theme. How are these, what are we doing that's different, that hasn't happened before, or how are we engaging with our different community organizations? The top one is I process how we are going to continue to iterate multiple times throughout the process. That doesn't always happen in the grants that we're working on. Frequently, you just have someone come in, say what they're going to do, and then do it. Ours really we would test different ideas within the communities, engage in those communities, and then iterate and iterate and iterate. Same thing, our lower graphic is really getting to show off some of our childcare ideas with our preschool development grant, same kind of grant, but showing just really with some super quick iconography that there's these different zones that are happening, but they're all doing different things. And so we're talking about families, we're talking about data, we're talking about funding, all those different pieces are happening different. You can also, a lot of my graphics have to do with how funding is flowing from local partnerships into the grants that we're asking for. So anytime we can show how money is flowing is a key piece. Another concept, kind of graphic, again, just trying to show how the tools that we are talking about doing are coming together and trying to describe the concepts. These are times where by creating a visual, we're able to save space because we don't have to go through tons and tons of detail in text. We can say there's going to be an interactive tool. It's going to work with 1-800-CHILDREN. There's going to be an AI chat. These are the pieces that are working. And so it can be supportive, it can be instead of, kind of whatever is necessary in your grant process. The last piece is always the did it add meaning and did it add clarity? If the answer is no, then don't use it. Writing is probably going to be more important at that time. But also part of that is that good formatting, Matt was kind of saying this, that like good formatting, a good table of contents, a good organized structure is extremely important. And I've gotten some really great feedback on just separating out content into call-out boxes to say that it's still just text, but separating it out so that it's really quickly visible to understand that, okay, we had 2 paragraphs worth of introductory text, but here's really what we're gonna do. And having that in a call-out text, that basic formatting and a really solid organizational structure is some of the most key pieces.